Welcome to Autogefühl, your #1 resource for in-depth car reviews. This is Thomas today with the all-new Mazda CX-3. We are in the small SUV segment, 4.27 meters in length, and the main competitors will be for example, the Honda HR-V or the Opel or Vauxhall Mokka, or also the Skoda Yeti, just to name a few. And actually this segment here is the most surging one in a lot of markets right now. So more and more sales of these small SUVs. Why? Well, you got an SUV with an upright seating position and also with a SUV styling, but still you have a very short size that's very practical in the city driving. So now I can already promise you here at this point, this car is one of the big surprises of this year. So let's join me now for this review of the exterior, interior, and of course of the driving and the overall conclusion. In the Mazda homeland, Japan, this car has been sold over 10,000 times just in the first couple months, showing such a great success. And one of the reasons might be the design. It's a very modern, sharp, contemporary design. You see the front grille, Mazda is setting all on the fins here now. They're not using these comb structures. And you see the logo has changed in this case here. You cannot feel the logo, and that is one reason, because the sensor for the adaptive cruise control is behind that one. Has been the same with the Mercedes S-Class Coupe recently in our review. And then another remarkable thing, it's a really nice piece of handwork how the front grille, the aluminum style, is transported into the headlight. And some of you might think, wait a minute, doesn't it look like the Audi Q7? Yes, it looks a little bit like the all-new Audi Q7 we'll also review quite soon. But in general, I think they have this own Kodo design scheme here. So it's not that they have kind of just copied something. I think it's a very strong front here already for such a small SUV. Looking at the side profile here in this very beautiful color, my favorite color, cyanide blue. We got this off-road SUV styling, therefore we have black fenders here in plastic. And they also have a reason, because they protect the paint, because if here there would also be paint, I'll show you later on the rear, that could actually easily get scratches if you go off-road. Usually people won't go off-road with it, of course. Then let's take a look here at the alloys, 18-inch. This here is the top version, the sports line. In the sports line, 18-inch alloys are from serial production. Then let's move up again to see the whole line again. What else is remarkable? Again, this Kodo design line kind of reminds us already of the Mazda CX-5, the bigger brother. But actually this one here is based on the Mazda 2. Also check this full review, it's linked in the video description. It's an all-new car we've reviewed earlier this year. And therefore we also got all the great things the Mazda 2 already had in there. But it actually some other details changed, and I'm showing you later on about that. This will be very exciting, I promise you. Then from the outside, let's continue. The very special thing is that here at the C-pillar, we got it all in black, and therefore the roof, it seems to, it seems to be not attached to the car, it seems to fly kind of. That is a very special design thing. However, you could also argue that a lot of design lines are used here. It's kind of like a samurai concept where you cut here and here and here. but it looks at least spectacular, however you find it positive or negative. Then let's check out the rear. You see the lights come out, creating these 3D effect. Also the roof line is falling here a little bit, and you always see from the outside there won't be too much space in the trunk though. And everything you see reminds you again of the Mazda 2, but that's not a wrong thing. You see it's the AWD, this is the all-wheel drive version, which is available for the stronger engines. Going to talk about the engines quite soon and explain you all about it. And then if we go to the lower part, we also got the black fenders here, the off-road style fenders. And this one here, those are not scratches, it's just some dust, but it comes from all the grass we were going over here when we're driving off-road. And there you see that this part, actually when you're going a little bit off-road, can be prone to scratches, and therefore it is in this off-road part also just from removable parts, let's take it that way, because they shouldn't be painted then, just if there's some scratches. But again, I must say, most people won't go off-road with it, but it has this off-road style. And two beautiful pipes, you see it's just for design that you got this stronger pipe around here. The real one is on the inside, but at least you already got two of them, and that also makes the nice styling here in the rear. So design-wise, it's one of the most beautiful small SUVs on the market right now, I think at least. But let's look what's beneath the hood, because there Mazda is also doing a special strategy. Look at this one here now. This one is a 2-liter naturally aspirated engine, the petrol engine with 150 horsepower. There's also one available with 120 horsepower that cannot be combined to the all-wheel drives in. This one can actually, and there's also a 1.5 liter diesel available, then with 105 horsepower. I would recommend this engine because in general I love naturally aspirated petrol engines, and I really praise Mazda for this strategy, because they think, okay, we're not doing the thing that everyone else is doing this very small turbo petrol engine and putting in more and more and more horsepower, and okay, they drive very well, they have a lot of power. But what about durability? The naturally aspirated one is promised to be a lot more durable. At least I can say so from my experience. What about you? Also awaiting your comments on that kind of topic and then that strategy. And well, I'm not too much of a diesel fan, so I would rather go with a petrol engine here. And the consumption is also not too high. The official consumption is 6.3 liters on 100 kilometers. And the advantage again on the naturally aspirated one, it's not such a big difference from the stated consumption and the real consumption. So we land up about 7 liters on 100 kilometers with that one. I think internationally this will also be the most important engine. If you need the all-wheel drive or not, I don't think it's the most crucial part. This vehicle has the all-wheel drive, so we're also going to do some soft off-road. So let's slowly move to the interior of the car, and one thing you can already see from the outside is the head-up display hidden behind here. Only pops out when I start the engine. See it right here. And you know there are two ways of projecting a head-up display. One is this one here, you project into this kind of artificial glass, and the other one is you project directly into the windscreen. I'll show you from the other perspective which one is actually better. This one here is a cheaper solution, but it's already kind of a miracle that we have that here in this kind of segment, so it's already quite good. And another thing you can already see from the outside are a lot of sensors and cameras placed above here, and that is for all the assistance systems. They're all optional, but again, you get almost all modern assistance systems here already in this car. Starting with the center line, the second highest trim level, you already got the emergency braking assistant from serial production, not with the Prime lamp, and please Mazda engineers, include it also in the basic version, because this is really for basic safety and can also save lives. However, most people will buy it at least in the center line version, so for most cars it will be included then, I think. And then optionally in the higher trim levels, or also just from optional packages, you can also pick, for example, the blind spot warner, which is integrated then in the side mirrors, also a lane assist, and of course, shown you earlier in the front, the adaptive cruise control. Tested this one as well, it works pretty fine. Let's get inside and look at the look and feel. Especially the feel of car is also the sound, for example, the door make. And when you just put the handle or close the door, I think it doesn't sound too good. It sounds like a little bit that they haven't put too much stuff in here in the door. Well, quality-wise, just from the look and feel, it's not that good, but you have to remind yourself it also can be something of lightweight, because if they don't put too much stuff in the door, it's also lighter than again. But I personally, I would prefer if the sound would be better than if it sounds kind of filled, like for example in the Volkswagen. But that's really a detail here. Everything else now on the interior, I'm telling you, is really superb. I'm really flabbergasted, I must say. Starting here with the inside of the doors, look at this. This is the top trim level here on the sports line. Artificial leather in red here on the side. Alcantara in the contrast. And then aluminum on the top here. In the matte style, you see the lines. This is just beautiful, and I mean, find me a BMW where it is looking like that, if it's not like a top BMW, like a 6 Series or something like that. Just compare BMW 3 Series or something, paying like 60,000 euros in the top trim level. Here with everything in there, this car is starting in Germany, for example, at 18,000 euros with a smaller petrol engine. The sports line is available beginning with 23,000 euros. And if you pick, for example, also all-wheel drive and the bigger engines with that one and top trim level, maybe 26,000 euros, and that's kind of done. And I think it's still quite of an okay price. Of course, more expensive than the Mazda 2, but you also get more of a car from it. Continuing with the interior, as I was sitting down here for the first time, it's just like, wow, where are we here? Premium, even luxury segment. It's really astonishing what they did here in the top trim level, yes, of course, but already the lower trim levels look quite fine. This one here, just to show you what is maximum possible. Starting in with the seats. You see the contrasting seats, white leather here. I'm not sure which kind of part is artificial or which is natural leather. You know, the manufacturers, they tend to hide this kind of fact, and I think they should make it more public which one is which one, because we don't need real leather anymore. However, the outer parts are surely from artificial leather, and that's well fine, and the inner parts here, that is very good, that they don't stick to the seats, is made of fabric, it's Alcantara style. And I think it would be even better if it continue a little bit more on the front, because your legs then do stick on the seats when it's very hot. But the styling, I mean, this is just such a great styling here with the contrasting colors here and in red. And the same kind of color scheme is carried all over the car here in the interior. For example, if you look at the front, we already know this from the Mazda 2. This artificial leather here on the upper part, it's so great that they don't just use cheap plastics, but even the hard plastic here above. It is hard, yes, but they have created a nice surface that it also looks high class. And some elements remind you of other brands. For example, here the Volkswagen Passat, the horizontal line. This is the vent which is included. That way it's closed, by the way, and that way it's open. Then the touchscreen here reminds you of Mercedes. And the vents reminds you of Audi. But I mean, I'm not quite sure if they really copied it. It looks like the best of all premium manufacturers on the one hand, but it's always hard to find out like who got the idea first of all, who developed it first. So we just leave this one open to your speculations and your comments. So let's look at the controls here for seat heating. Wait, I'm turning on the ignition so it works. 3 level, and it's good that you have a separate button for that, because you always have to think about what do I offer as separate buttons and what do I offer in the touchscreen. Then the controls for the climate, and they have really worked on that even further. In the Mazda 2 it felt kind of cheap. This one has improved here now, just from feeling it and also from the sound it makes, and it's also, yeah, well, it's better attached than the Mazda 2, although it's the same kind of thing. But they have, you know, we've criticized it a little bit in the Mazda 2, they have improved it here now for the vent strength and where it's actually coming from. It could be a little bit heavier to turn feels a little bit better in a Volkswagen, for example, but still they have really improved that one. Totally fine with that by now. Then at the lower part, we got the SD card, but that's used for the GPS system. And we got 2 USB ports directly and the 12-volt supply. Still got a CD opening here, by the way. I'm not sure who of you is still using CDs. And then more carbon fiber is used here, as well as in the vents, and also here on the lower part. On the inside it's carbon fiber look, and on the outside it's softer for your legs, the red leather style. Again, great style here with the artificial leather loose, as well as on the shifting lever here. We got the automatic gearbox here. All engines are available with 6-speed manual gearbox, always 6-speed automatic gearbox, and I can already recommend the automatic gearbox, very fine with driving it. Then the central control panel reminds us of Audi or also Mercedes and BMW. You see there you can put your hand on this kind of part. There you can adjust the volume or just mute it by clicking it. And then you got shortcuts here, for example the home button for the menu in the screen, or for example shortcut for the GPS or the music. And then the central button here, you just listen to it. It almost feels like an Audi now, and also when controlling it up and down. They have really worked on that one again. It also feels premium. So I'm really astonished how this car feels premium in almost every detail. Mazda has also revised from the Mazda 2 this whole control panel here. In the Mazda 2 it was still a little bit loose. They've really fixed that with now. It's really fixed here. So also very happy with that one now. Everything feels really good. Then let's use this new high glass feeling control button in the central, and actually you can turn the knob and then it changes the menu here. But what else is possible? It doesn't look like it, but it's also a touchscreen. I wouldn't have expected that one actually. So you can either use the central control knob, or for example if the co-driver wants to control something, also the touch is possible. The both control ways say it's a good compromise, because actually you can just pick your favorite level, and then it's just check the GPS, how it looks. I think the basic styling of it is quite good. I was quite satisfied with it, but the commands came a little bit late when you have to switch direction or something like that. So it could be a little bit faster. You can also move with the control stick, but let's also see if it works with the touch. Yes, also possible here. No, but well, zooming in and out is not possible in that way. We've seen it better, for example, in the Cadillac ATS recently in a review. But here you can zoom on the right side. Then let's go to the menu with the hotkey on the central console. Let's look at some settings. For example, you can set the height of the head-up display here, for example, and then this is the central display then, where I can also, I have made a maximum brightness contrast here now, that you can also see it very well in the camera. And for example, you can also change the safety systems to disable something, but usually you just let them all in. I think the general design of the menu is quite modern, and I think it's very pleasing how the monitor is placed up there. It's a little bit huge, yes, but there you can also see everything on it, because if it would be smaller, you couldn't really realize everything that is displayed on there, even if it looks a little bit attached here, but it's the same as for Mercedes, for example. The steering wheel is compact. It creates a lot of fun actually when driving. So it's really the right size here for the SUV. We got this carbon fiber look on the inside, and also all of the buttons, they feel very good. So not cheap at all. This one is for the sound, for example. This one, for example, is the button for the adaptive cruise control to increase or to lower the distance from the car in front of you. And you can, of course, set the speed here. And you can also set a limiter that you can't go above a certain speed. Beautiful sports style here for the instrument. They go in very deep and with a huge RPM meter here. Very clear in general. I mean, the letters maybe look a little bit old-fashioned, but that's just going into details on everything else here. You can even touch it. The glass is actually way in there, so it's a very there you see there's the glass, but here it isn't. Here also not. I think this is a nice 3D effect you have here. And with this big RPM meter, it's more like a sports car, I must say. So I'm turning on the engine, that you can see the head-up display. It flips up then. We see it now from the inside and also the information on it. And actually the disadvantage of this actually cheaper system is that now, as I'm a tall person, so I have a problem here because I'm seeing it right here, and that's really not a good visibility. I would prefer it rather up here, but that's in this case only possible if you would project it directly into the windscreen, and that's the more expensive solution. So I think we have to be satisfied already here that we got a head-up display at all. So, seating check. You see it's a rather upright seating position already here in this small SUV, and that's the main advantage if you compare it to the Mazda 2, where it's based on, because with tall people in the Mazda 2 it was already a very good car, yes, but tall people didn't have this very good long-term comfort. This one is better here now. Although we are just in a small car, I already have a good long-term comfort, I can already say so far. Also, when I just lean my head back, this is also very comfortable, just a side aspect. And in general, I'm very satisfied with the seats, also with the basic form. Then let's move on to the rear compartment. Close the door in the front. Let's get to the back. By the way, one nice detail I see here. It's very good if you have children. This one here is the children safe lock. You can put it in like this, and then you cannot, when you just put this one, it doesn't open the door from the inside. Only when I put it up again, and when I then push this one, also feel a little bit more resistant, and you also hear it, if you really listen to it, then it closes the door from the inside. Of course, at all times I can also close the door from the inside, which each door, that's of course possible then as well. At the rear compartment, we have the same design scheme, so they really looked at the details at the Alcantara, and the leather style is with the contrast red, white, black is also carried over on there. And then, very interesting will be to see, I got the door handle here on the back part, by the way. Well, I don't have too much space here, I'm 1.86 in meters. When I have the seat as I would be driving, I can push my knees in here, but then your knees get through the driver's seat. You see the driver's seat itself, it's very slim actually. I would push my knees into the driver kind of. So it's not the best for the adults here in the back. Also from my headspace, there's no real headspace. I'm touching the seating with my head. So I cannot really sit here in the back when someone like me would be driving here in the front. Maybe if the co-driver is a little bit smaller, then let's move on to the other side and let's test that one. That would be quite okay then. Let's put the headrest up. That would actually work. So if a smaller driver is there or a smaller co-driver, that would actually be possible here then. Again, it's better with this setup. I think also got a feeling that it's a little bit better than in the Mazda 2 because you have the rather upright seats here then. So you have definitely more space here and especially more head clearance here. So when I sit now, not too far caged in with the knees. Also the headroom is a little bit better, only my hairs are touching the seating now. And I think for a car that is 4.27 meters, that's quite okay. However, there are also competitors which are better in this case. For example, the Skoda Yeti, there you have more head clearance here than now. But then again, this one has the more dynamic design on the outside. And you have to really think about what is more important to you. Let's move on to the trunk. I'll show you the key first. You see there's no button on the key for opening the trunk, just close and open. The key itself, it's pretty much standard, I would say. It's like the whole car. It is solid, really rock solid. No real artwork, but it's just solid. And then let's check the trunk. So then you can just open it below here. And you see the same as for the rear seats also accounts for the trunk. The basic space is there. For example, here now 2 small trolley suitcases, another backpack that does fit for your everyday grocery shopping. That will be fine as well. For traveling, no, because the design, the great design on the outside also reduces the space on the inside. That same accounts here. And I can just remove one small suitcase that I can flip the seats for you. You see we have a 2/3, 1/3 split, and then you can flip the seats and you'll have a rather even loading space in here, and that's possibly because there's also some more space below here. I can also show you that. You see, for longer things it's also possible, and in this case also quite versatile. We have some small attachment options here to really put something tight here as well. Good that they thought about that one. So let's unpack everything here for just a second. Because I also want to know what's beneath here, and you guys surely also want to know more about that. The backpack. So what's waiting here? And this one, you see, this actually to make the whole area even then, but you can also remove it that it goes a little bit steeper down here, and then there's another thing to remove, and that one here, stuff when you blow your tires, or the warning, the emergency triangles. So, but in general, I think, I'm not sure if I would leave it like that or if I would put the other one up there, because that one is reducing the trunk on the one hand. On the other hand, if you put it in again, you get the even surface. I'm not sure. What do you think? What would you do? Here again, one advantage is you can put it out and then easily clean it. So now let's put all our stuff back in again. Gentlemen, start your naturally aspirated engines, in this case. I think it also sounds a little bit better than the turbo ones. And here we are a little bit off-road, and so I can already start with the off-road. We got the all-wheel drive here, which is quite handy for snowy conditions, for example. In general, well, it's not the best off-road car, of course, but as you got a little bit more ground clearance, you don't have to be afraid that much. For example, when we're filming the car here, the outside shots when we're driving, it's quite often that we have to turn the car around on quite small places, and also have maybe some bumps in the road. And here we don't have to be afraid to damage the car, because we have this more ground clearance in comparison to a normal small car here, and that's quite good actually, even if it's not the best off-road car. When riding here a little bit off-road, soft off-road here now, it's actually quite comfortable. But the suspension is of course not set on off-road driving, more on the road driving. But in general, it's good to have it, especially, for example, when you're living in Spain or Italy and going up your villa or something like that, or your finca, or then you don't have a plain road in front of you. It's also quite good to have such a vehicle then for this kind of purpose. So far, just for the off-road impressions, and I think, well, the overdrive is maybe better used in winter times, for example. Then you can really use it to have more traction. And of course, if you hammer the throttle, then it also doesn't spin the wheels that much if it's transported on all the four wheels. And now I want to turn around, and actually, especially when standing still, the steering wheel is so easy to turn, so you don't need to have a lot of power in your hands. That's very good for city driving here, for example. And then when I put it to the rear wheel drive, sorry, not the rear wheel drive, the rear wheel camera, you see it's actually quite a good solution. I think I've seen better ones, but I've also seen worse ones. The angle is quite good because I see what's behind me and also what's beneath me, and that's very good, I think. So for the safety, you see it's a wide angle, you see it here, there, you see that one here. So you can see everything here, and that's better than to have another perspective. So front again, and by the way, if you look down to my shifting lever, it's also quite fast, that you NRP. It also feels high class here. This is, for example, the manual shifting up and down, so you can do that one here as well, but usually you just put it in D. And this is all, again, very good quality. Then again, easy to turn the steering wheel around, just on a very small surface here, small space, steering wheel around, front again. It's all so easy to do. from off-road riding to on-road riding. Make a transition and already really hammer the throttle. Shifts down. Here the sound of the engine is not that high frequent like with the turbo petrol engine. It's more low frequent, and I really prefer that one actually. It goes up until 6,000 RPM, so it's really working, but that's fine, it's okay. And yes, you don't have so much power than with a turbo petrol engine. It's not so explosive from the acceleration, but still you're getting used to it, and you know you probably have a longer lasting engine then. So overall I'm quite satisfied. I would not go for the 120 horsepower petrol engine, so I would really recommend the 151, because then the 121, that could actually have really too little power. And there's also, of course, the diesel available. As far as I know, in Japan, maybe you get some comments from views from Japan, they only wanted to offer the diesel then. And well, on other markets, for example, this car is also supposed to come to the US. There will, of course, the petrol engine be the crucial one. Here in Germany, I think it will be a mix of both. So the steering wheel is actually quite direct. You see, I also don't need long steering ways. It's also quite astonishing, because we are obviously not in a sports car here. Steering wheel, as I said earlier, is very compact, very good to steer here as well. So I was quite amazed that you can also drive the car very sporty, although we are here in an SUV. See, if I go right and left here now, it's really makes a lot of fun actually. So I was quite amazed this car actually can do anything kind of it. You can go a little bit off-road, you can also drive a little bit sporty, but also just being relaxed, because the sound insulation is also good. And the best discipline is, I think, driving it in the city, because you can do a small turning circle here or whatever, and I showed you earlier that it doesn't take any effort to turn the steering wheel, really no power. But what is also quite astonishing is, although the steering wheel can be turned so easily when standing still, it is still not that feeling dead, you know, because otherwise a lot of soft steering wheels, when you're then on the road here and steering, they feel totally dead and don't give you any feedback. But it gets a little bit stiffer when you increase the speed, and that's pretty much fine then. So here, going uphill then, when the engine has to work again a little bit, I think you just have to get used to it when you're driving turbos before, to go back in time kind of for this kind of angle. But maybe it's not really back in time, maybe it's even the better way, as I said before. You have everything in control, also in the head-up display. It could be a little bit higher than for a tall person, I've talked about it before, but it's still good to have the head-up display, because you then have a better overview over everything and don't have to move your view that far down here then again. So the view front is quite a panoramic, good view also to the sides. When I move my head back, it's not that easy to look kind of in the rear and the sides at the same time here, because the rear design, the falling roofline, that is reducing a little bit of the visibility, so you have to live with that. However, the view to the rear, to the central mirror, that is quite okay, I think. So in this car you can ride it very relaxed. Also the suspension, nothing to moan about here, especially when there are some waves on the ground. I felt it on the motorway, for example. It was doing a really good job. You were almost not feeling the wave, kind of evening all out. And on off-road it was already quite okay. So I think they have also done a good job with the suspension. Well, it's not that kind of often that we can say so many and just positive things about the car. And just trying again here to turn, to show you how easy it actually is, turning the steering wheel just without any power. That's a really practical thing when being in some narrow parking lots inside the city. And some people might even think about, okay, maybe I'm not going for a compact SUV because my garage is not big enough, or the parking lot I go to at work or something like that. So I stepped down a class or picked a smaller size SUV, but still already have a good comfort, because these seats also offer a long-term comfort. That can actually be one of the crucial factors for this car, that you still already want to have the SUV feeling, but don't want to be too large from the car from the outside. I think that is quite well done in here. And to the point I got earlier, there are a lot of cars that are so superb, but then also cost a lot of money. And even more seldom are cars which are very good and still affordable. For example, like the Skoda Superb recently, or the Skoda Fabia, and this one here still. Of course, more expensive than a small car, but still in the affordable region, but already getting premium quality as for exterior, interior, and also here for the driving experience. You always ask me, Thomas, can you also show us other colors or other trim levels, and especially the basic trim levels? It's not always possible, but today it is actually, because the biggest art of building a car is not especially to make the top version great looking and high class, but also the basic versions. The basic version here would be the Prime line. This one here is one above, the center line. But so it's still a rather cheap version, and we are going to take a look at the difference here now. In the side profile, for example, you see we don't have the 18-inch alloys, but the 16-inch alloys. I think they still look quite good, so you can actually also drive a car with the smaller alloys. Of course, the 18-inch look more fancy, or what's your opinion on that? You also see the difference that on the sports line, we get a chrome loop here on the lower part here. Here it's just the plain black plastic. Also doesn't look that fancy, but I think in general the car still looks good already here in the centerline version. This color, by the way, is ceramic metallic. Also tell us in the comments if you like that color or if you would prefer the blue one. And then there's one more difference here in the center line to the sports line. In the lower part here, the bumper is rather simple. You've seen on the one in the sports line looks a little bit more evolved, a little bit more sporty as well. And the Mazda logo is a real Mazda logo where you can actually touch it. And the reason is it's not with the included ACC, the automatic cruise control, here not included in the center line. I would prefer the logo as it is here right now, but of course, as for safety reasons and all for comfort reasons, I would always go for the ACC. And then this logo is gone and you just have the plain Mazda logo with the sensor behind. And now it gets really exciting. How does the interior look like? Comparison to the center line, almost the lowest trim level, and to the sports line, the really highest trim level. Here we got fabric seats, so it's something completely different. The basic form is kind of the same, but not totally the same, I would say. I think, prove me wrong, but I think the seating area is a little bit shorter. But in general, they look quite good already, also with this contrast look here. So you see, they are kind of same structures than in the sports version. And finally, I also found kind of a flaw. You see the side pads of the seats, they are, well, not that strong. I would prefer if it's a little bit stronger. You find it with premium manufacturers, for example. But we really have to search long to find a flaw here, and that really speaks for the car. Okay, the sports seats do look fancier, definitely. I think they just look great, but this one here is already okay, I think. And then let's look at the dashboard. We already got the artificial leather here, the Volks leather in the front, and it's not with the contrast stitches here, also not in bright. I would always prefer it in the bright way, but it already looks quite classy. Also the vents here, you see we got these round vents, which also remind us of Audi, and with the red contrast on the inside. So you see the basic setup is already this premium style, so you don't have to miss anything, at least not that much, when you're here in the center trim level. I think that is another astonishing detail. By the way, we now also got the 6-speed manual gearbox here. I think just from feeling everything also makes a good impression. We're soon going to experience how the driving is in reality, because this is also diesel, showing you also quite soon. I would also go for the automatic gearbox always. I think I just prefer the automatic gearbox, but what about you? Do you rather like manual or automatic? So this one is the diesel now, 1.5 liters with 105 horsepower. So not too much horsepower, but in this case, of course, as all the modern diesels, it got the turbo. So we're going to experience the power output here quite soon, and because maybe also a lot of you will go for the diesel, so I can also give you a hint there which one I would actually prefer. So welcome here now inside with the driving. We're now driving the diesel 1.5 liter, and I'm not sure if you share my enthusiasm, but I find it always very interesting to see another color and different trim level and another engine at the same time. So it's really a lot of variables that you can change here with the car, and then really see, is the car really so much different, or is it also rather the same? What I can already tell you so far from driving here in the city, the diesel feels a little bit more powerful than the 150 horsepower version with the petrol engine. It got the turbo, so at the first, well, like the first second, it doesn't change so much. But then if you really hammer the throttle, it's really a lot of difference. So the traffic light turns to green now. Manual shifting in general makes a quite solid impression, by the way. I think it's not as good as we, for example, know from Volkswagen, so you really feel a little bit of resistance when shifting, so I have experienced better then. So in this case, I would really say go for the automatic gearbox, because sometimes, for example, the last very good manual gearbox I've experienced with the Volkswagen Golf GTI, there I would say it makes so much fun to do this manual shifting. It's so great without resistance and short shifting ways that you should rather go for that one. But then again, here I wouldn't really say it's the best one, so I'm not a fan of the manual transmission here. However, the diesel feels quite good. It also feels, the car still feels kind of light and agile. Of course, the sound is different. The petrol sound is better, especially because it's a naturally aspirated one. The diesel sound, it's not the most modern diesel sound. You still feel this kind of classic diesel sound, so I'm not too keen on that. But the power output is really good. So if you want better output with the power, you feel the petrol engine is not the most suiting for you because the turbo is missing, then actually you should maybe go for the diesel. And I'm not sure about the consumption here so far, but actually we assume that the consumption will be lower than with the petrol engine. So let's now go to a corner here, third gear. Yeah, when this turbo sets in, we really get a good power. Let's really push it. Yeah. Well, maybe it's not the biggest difference then. Feeling it right now when I go, for example, from 60 to 80. I think just in the city, from the low RPMs, there you feel a difference between the diesel and the petrol engine. But now as we get more speed, I'm not so sure about that, because if you push the petrol engine a little bit more, then you maybe get equal results. So what we already do see now, that the consumption is way lower than with the petrol engine. Right now we're at about 5 liters on 100 kilometers. The petrol engine will be above 7 liters. So I think you save at least 2 to 3 liters on 100 kilometers with the diesel version here. But then you have to think about, for example, in Germany, you say over 20,000 kilometers a year you should go for the diesel, because it costs more in insurance and also in the taxes. But the fuel price difference isn't that great anymore in Germany, so I think it's not really paying off to get the diesel here, although you save some liters on 100 kilometers. And from the power output, I think if you push the petrol engine a little bit further from the throttle, you get equal results than with the diesel engine. You have a better sound. I think the diesel doesn't sound that nice, in my opinion. So I would really prefer the bigger petrol engine. Would not go for the 120 horsepower petrol engine, really go for the 150 horsepower. But still, if you rather prefer diesel or drive really a lot of kilometers per year, you will also be fine with that one, because the diesel, well, it feels quite okay while driving. When you're just rolling or maybe not accelerating, it's also not too loud, so the sound insulation is quite good. Just when you really push the throttle, then you rather hear that typical diesel sound. The car still feels kind of light. You will also be fine with the manual gearbox. So again, we can prove that this car is already suitable here in the lower trim levels with not so much equipment in here. But if you can actually afford it, I would actually go for the automatic gearbox. And I would also prefer the petrol engine, and it's of course not more expensive than the diesel then. So, but in general, I can say I'm satisfied with every engine I tested here today. And you know, that was just my opinion on which one I would prefer. Just from what I've told you and what your experiences are, I also want to hear your comments about that engine choice then. Let's draw a conclusion on the all-new Mazda CX-3. I was really surprised with this car on the positive side. I think it has a really stunning exterior. I would pick the car exactly as it stands here right now. What about you? I want to hear your comments on that. Cyanide blue here with the contrast bright interior on the inside. That's just so beautiful, and I think the designers have done a very great job. But it's not only design, everything is very solid and high class. Look at this premium quality in the interior. I've shown you it extensively. I think it is really astonishing, and some premium manufacturers can really look at that one here, what they've done here, and also considering for the price, because it's not already a premium price, but you already get a premium quality. The car can almost do anything, I almost feel. For small, soft off-road rides, it is actually capable, and you don't even damage the car immediately when going for some soft off-road rides, maybe up to your finger here in Spain or whatever. And then again, it's also possible to drive quite agile on the streets. I didn't even await that actually. So it also is really fun in driving, even with this kind of petrol engine. You don't have the turbo boost, you have to get used to that one, so it's not the fastest engine, but it is promising to be one of the most durable ones, because it's more of the classic building style here. So I really recommend to take that one here. The all-wheel drive, well, you don't really need it, but it's always nice to have. It depends on if you want to pay the optional price for it. Just some more infos on the trim levels. I've already explained it's starting with pure, then you got the center line where you already got the emergency braking included from the assistance systems. Then you move on to the exclusive line, and that one already is offering, for example, the seat heating on the inside and some more other features. And then the sports line finally, where you get these 18-inch alloys, the head-up display, and all the other features we've shown you here today. Besides of the assistance system, most of them are still optional, still in the top trim level. So overall, I think it's one of the biggest surprises here this year. It's taking the Mazda 2 as a standard and then even making it a little bit better, seeing what have we done a little bit wrong maybe with the Mazda 2. Just the small flaws were evened out, and then it's an even better car here now. And I think it looks great and has so many uses, still very practical for the city because of this short size here. So I can really recommend this one. Hardly anything to moan about here. So I want to hear your comments on the car. Also, maybe if you're owning one already, maybe you bought one or you want to buy one. Also tell me what color and what trim level on the inside, and also what exterior you would pick. I would really like to see that, and I hope to see you also at the next Autogefühl episode. Thanks for watching, guys.